Hi, welcome to Pursuit of Sound. My name is Jason. I'm from Chicago, and today we're going to be talking about granular synthesis. Specifically, we're going to be talking about my favorite technique to use with granular synthesis. This isn't going to be a tutorial. I figured there's already a lot of tutorials out there already, so I kind of want this channel to be focused a little bit more towards an audience that's intermediate, people who already know what filters are, already know what envelopes are, stuff like that. But for the sake of clarity, I'm going to include a link to a pretty good tutorial, and that will be in the video description. All right, so first let me start off with what I particularly like about granular synthesis. What I like about granular synthesis is that basically any sound in the world becomes your oscillator. Now I realize, wavetables is another way to get recordings and turn them into oscillators, but wavetables usually work within short time windows, and granular synthesis allows you to take very, very long sounds and turn them into oscillators. So if I take a sample like this, which is just a recording of a children's choir. As you can see, I just have like a controller knob hooked up to the sweep position. One thing I like about granular synthesis is that it gives you kind of like a thicker sort of sound. It's typically a little bit darker, a little bit eerier, which is the sort of sounds that I like personally. And the other nice thing about granular synthesis is that when you're working with large samples like this one, I think this one's probably about 25 seconds total, is that you can kind of narrow it down to just work within smaller time windows. So as you can see here by the setting, it is only set up right now to only play within like 16 or 17%, pretty much of the total sample window here. And then I can just basically play with the position to sweep it around within that like time window. Usually when I'm playing with granular synthesis, and I think that this is the case for most people that play with granular synths, there's a preference to kind of slow the recordings down rather than speeding up. Granular synthesis is particularly strong for drones. Drones are great for tone, but not so great for rhythm, obviously. So drones are good for pads and stuff like that. But in order to attach like rhythm to a drone, my favorite tool, and what's kind of going to be the main focus of this video, is amplitude modulation. One way you can do amplitude modulation in software like Ableton is to have a utility plugin right here, attach an LFO to the gain, and so this is basically just a square wave set to 16 notes. You get some really interesting results if you sweep the position knob. Okay, that's one way to do it. Personally, I don't use LFOs for this kind of thing as much anymore. I think it's a lot more interesting. To use automation for this, and let me show you another example that I have for that. Okay, now this is another vocal sample, and basically I have it automated for the position to kind of move around within this time window. Bring in some drums here. Okay. I think the sound right here is already kind of interesting by itself. Basically you've just got basically it's just a recording of some vocals, and then occasionally the position bar latches onto just like the recording, just the last millisecond or two of a word that makes it sound kind of breathy. You can hear it right there. But I think one way to make this sound a lot more interesting is to modulate the amplitude, which I've already done here. I'll show you what's happening here. Okay. The nice thing about doing it with automation instead of an LFO is you can extend some of these pulses, which I think this sounds a lot more interesting. Another cool way to kind of play with automation is to have these pulses, but also like incorporate like a ramp. So just about any time I play with granular synthesis, I almost always use this technique. It's always nice to add like little counter rhythms and stuff like that within a sound. One nice thing about Ableton is that you can unlink this so that whatever sort of automation you get going doesn't necessarily have to be linked to the sound as a whole. So you can run it independently the same way that you would be able to in LFO. So let me show you. So basically, this little automation that you set up here becomes its own LFO. So if you wanted it to run an entire measure, or say like 3/4 of a measure or something like that, so that it basically doesn't always align with your rhythm, you can do stuff like that, which is a lot of fun. So it's a pretty simple technique, but it's one that I find really, really useful. And hopefully you will too. I'll probably have some other videos in the future talking about granular synthesis. If you find this one useful, please click like and subscribe. And I would appreciate like any sort of comments of any other topics that you would ever like to see me discuss. And have a nice day.